I always thought I was observant. Not paranoid. Not controlling. Just aware. The kind of husband who noticed when her favorite wine was on sale or when the new wrinkle cream she mentioned once in passing finally showed up in her drawer. I paid attention, at least I believed I did. But nothing prepares you for the moment you realize your attention was misdirected all along. The night I found the phone, it was quiet, almost eerily so. She was out with her sister for dinner. Or at least, that's what she told me. I remember I had just finished fixing a leaky pipe under the bathroom sink. My knees ached, my shirt was damp, and I figured I'd toss some of the storage boxes back under the bed before calling it a night. That's when my fingers brushed against something smooth. Cold. Rectangular. It wasn't a box. It wasn't mine. I pulled it out, confused, thinking maybe it was an old remote or a power bank. But no, it was a phone. Slim. Matte black. No case. No stickers. No signs of personality. Just a burner, practically sterile, like it had something to hide. I stared at it for a long time before pressing the power button. I don't know why I did it. Instinct, maybe. Or maybe a part of me already knew. There was no lock screen. That's what shocked me first. Who doesn't lock their phone these days? Then again, maybe that was the point. It wasn't supposed to be found. The home screen was almost empty. Just a few apps. Messaging. Email. A calendar. The kind of setup someone might use for work. But this wasn't her work phone. I knew what her work phone looked like. Silver, company issued, with their logo stamped on the back. This one was secret. I opened the messaging app, hand trembling a little. There weren't many conversations. Maybe 6 or 7, tops. All under first names or initials. No photos beside the names. No emojis. Just words. At first glance, it seemed innocent enough. But then I scrolled. And it hit me hard. One thread, marked simply as M, had messages going back months. I scanned a few. Same room again tonight. Don't forget the red dress. He still doesn't suspect anything? God, I wish I could wake up beside you. My throat closed. I told myself it might be a misunderstanding. Maybe M was a friend, someone joking, someone harmless. But the language was too intimate, too intentional, too real. I kept reading. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't stop. There were photos. Some of her smiling at places I didn't recognize. Rooftop bars, hotel lobbies, cafes she never mentioned. One selfie with a glass of wine in hand, wearing a silk robe I'd never seen before. The background didn't look like our home. It was sterile, beige, and unfamiliar. The last message was 2 days ago. He asked me to make pasta again tonight. So predictable. Might be late. That was the night we had our anniversary dinner. She'd smiled through the whole meal, complimented the wine, laughed at my jokes. Afterwards, she'd kissed me on the cheek and gone to bed early, saying she was tired. I stayed up alone watching reruns, thinking how lucky I was to have a marriage that still felt easy. Now I realized she hadn't been tired. She'd just been done pretending for the day. I sat there, cross-legged on the bedroom floor, the phone resting in my palm like a weight I couldn't put down. I didn't cry. Not then. I think part of me was still in denial. Still hoping it was some elaborate joke or mix-up. Still hoping I could find a message that said, "Just kidding," or "Delete this burner. It's getting suspicious." But there was no such message. Just more plans. More secrecy. More of my wife living a second life I wasn't a part of. That night, I didn't confront her. I placed the phone back exactly where I found it. Slid the box in beside it. Turned off the lights. And lay in bed beside her, pretending to sleep while she breathed softly, her back turned to me. The next morning, I made her coffee. Just like always. Extra foam, a dash of cinnamon on top. She smiled when I handed it to her, called me her morning magician, and kissed my temple before heading off to work. I watched her leave, stood at the window until her car disappeared around the corner. And then I exhaled for the first time in hours. Not because I was calm, not because I had a plan, but because everything I believed about my marriage had just changed. I wasn't the husband who was aware. I was the husband who missed it all, until now. The morning after I found the phone, everything felt surreal. Like I was walking through a dream where all the colors were a little too muted and every voice sounded just a bit too far away. I showered longer than usual. Let the water run hot until the mirror fogged over completely. I didn't look at my reflection. I wasn't ready to see what kind of man stared back. I didn't go to work. Called in sick. Said I had a stomach bug. That wasn't entirely a lie. My gut churned all morning, like it was warning me that whatever was coming next would be worse than I imagined. By noon, I had opened every drawer in the house. Not frantically, not with rage, just methodically, like I was peeling back layers of our life to see what was real and what was make-believe. She had stashed receipts in her closet drawer, hotel names I didn't recognize, charges for room service at times when she said she was staying late at the office, a card from a boutique I'd never heard of with a note scrawled inside. For the next time you sneak away. M. I sat on the floor with the evidence spread around me, like pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to finish. I didn't even know how long it had been going on. That was the worst part. It could have been 6 months. It could have been years. The messages didn't give me a clean timeline, and she never missed anniversaries or birthdays. She kissed me goodbye every morning. She wore the necklace I gave her 2 Christmases ago like it still meant something. But the version of her I knew, I was starting to doubt he ever truly existed. Around 3 p.m., I called my friend Adam. Not to tell him everything, just to hear a familiar voice. He picked up on the third ring. "You okay, man? You sound off." I wanted to say, "She has another life, Adam. She's someone else when I'm not around." But all I said was, "Yeah, just tired." You ever feel like you missed something big and you don't know how? There was a pause. "All the time," he said quietly. "But if you're asking that question, maybe it's time to start looking closer." I hung up not long after that. That night, I watched her walk in from the garage. She looked tired, heels in hand, purse slung over one shoulder. She kissed me absent-mindedly on the cheek and said, "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was a mess." I watched her lie to me, and I said nothing, just nodded. She poured herself a glass of wine, started telling me about a client who'd gone off the rails in a meeting. I nodded again, smiled when I was supposed to, laughed when she made a joke about her boss. And the whole time, I kept thinking, "You're so good at this." She was better than I gave her credit for. She sat cross-legged on the couch, swirling her wine and talking about her day like she hadn't just spent a week sending flirty texts to a man who wasn't me. Like she didn't have a secret phone hidden under our bed with proof of a world I wasn't allowed into. I watched her that night like I was studying a stranger. Every glance, every pause, every time she looked away too quickly. She didn't know. Not yet. But I was starting to know everything. That week, I became someone else. I backed up the messages from the second phone, used a tool I found online to clone its contents. I bought a burner of my own, one I could hide in the garage behind the toolbox. Every night when she slept, I combed through more of her digital footprints, linked usernames, checked photos for metadata, pieced together a travel history she never shared. She wasn't just having an affair. She was living a parallel life. Different clothes. A nickname she used with him that she never used with me. Places she went without telling me. Excuses that now seemed lazy in hindsight. Yoga retreats, networking events, weekend work trips that always came with excuses not to FaceTime. Every photo, every message, every deleted text I recovered, it chipped away at the version of her I had built in my mind. I started to question moments I once cherished. That vacation to Charleston, when she kept checking her phone by the beach. The dinner party with our friends when she suddenly got a headache and went to bed early. The way she stopped reaching for my hand under the covers. Was she already somewhere else, even then? By Friday, I had something close to a timeline. The messages with M stretched back almost a year. They talked about their first kiss, the first weekend getaway, their plans for the future, plans that didn't include me. One message stood out, burned into my mind. "He's too good. That's the problem. Too patient, too forgiving. I hate how easy it is to lie to him." That one hit harder than the rest. Not because it was cruel, but because it confirmed something I hadn't admitted out loud. I'd given her no reason to distrust me. I had loved her with the kind of consistency that should have been safe. And somehow, that made me the fool. That night, she curled up beside me in bed and whispered, "I've been tired lately. Sorry if I've been off. Work is just draining." I said nothing, just brushed her hair behind her ear and nodded. But inside, something had shifted. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was preparing. There's a kind of stillness right before a decision changes your life. A pause. A breath that hangs in the air just a second too long. I felt it on the morning I decided to confront her. Saturday. Early fall. The trees outside had started to turn, the reds and golds painting the street in a way she always loved. We used to take walks in the park when the leaves first started to fall. I remember the year we moved into this house. She said autumn was her favorite season because it was honest. Beautiful, but letting go. I didn't plan anything dramatic. No shouting, no cameras, no tears. Just the truth. Quiet. Plain. Undeniable. She was making coffee in the kitchen when I walked in. Her back was to me, humming something under her breath, still wearing my old college sweatshirt. She looked like home. She always did, right up until I saw her through a different lens. I found your other phone, I said carefully. She stopped humming. Slowly, she turned, the mug still in her hand. What are you talking about? Her voice didn't crack. That's what got me. No panic. Just deflection. I pulled the phone out of my back pocket and set it on the table between us. Her eyes didn't even flick to it at first. She was too busy searching my face for an angle. I unlocked it, I said. I read everything. Silence. Long enough to stretch the space between us wider than I'd ever felt it before. She set the mug down. Still calm. Still calculating. I was going to tell you, she said finally. I didn't know how. No, you weren't, I replied. If I hadn't found it, it would still be under the bed, wouldn't it? She didn't answer. Instead, she looked at the floor. Her hands tightened around the edge of the counter. It wasn't supposed to be serious, she whispered. At first, I just needed something that wasn't this. I could have asked what this meant. Our marriage? Our home? Me? But I didn't. I let the words hang. What do you mean, not serious? I asked, not because I didn't know, but because I wanted to hear her say it. She sighed. It was supposed to be a distraction, something I could control. He didn't ask questions. He didn't expect anything. It was just escape. And me? I asked, voice steady. What was I? She met my eyes, and for the first time in all of this, I saw something break in her. You were too good to me, she said. Too safe. I knew you'd never leave. I thought I could have both. That was it. The knife I didn't see coming. She didn't fall out of love. She just bet I wouldn't notice. That I'd be too kind. Too blind. Too steady. I loved you, she added, like it mattered. I still do in some way. In some way, I repeated, nodding slowly. But not enough to tell me the truth. Not enough to stop. She stepped forward, just one step. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I didn't do this to hurt you. I laughed softly, not because it was funny, just because the absurdity of it all finally boiled over. You didn't do it to hurt me, I said, gesturing to the phone. But you did it in our bed. You planned it around our life. You used me as your cover. That's not a mistake. That's not an accident. She didn't argue. I walked to the table and slid a folder across to her. Printed messages, photos, hotel receipts. Not to accuse, just to make it real. This is yours, I said. You can keep it. I've already backed everything up. Her hand hovered over the folder like it was something hot. Dangerous. And maybe it was. What now, she asked. It was my turn to be quiet. To breathe through the ache. I don't know, I said honestly. But I'm not going to be the man you lied to anymore. She cried then, quietly, hands covering her face like she could disappear inside them. And I stood there, feeling more hollow than angry, more tired than anything else. Because the truth is, betrayal doesn't always come with screaming or slammed doors. Sometimes it comes wrapped in the ordinary. A coffee mug, a kiss on the temple, a phone hidden under your bed. I packed a bag that afternoon, not out of rage, but necessity. She asked if I'd be back. I didn't answer. I stayed at a friend's place for a few days. Told work I needed time. Watched the sun rise through unfamiliar windows and wondered how long it would take to feel like myself again. I filed for separation a week later. No fireworks. No vengeance. Just a signature. A beginning of something else. And some nights now, I lie awake wondering if I missed the signs. If I was too focused on being good to realize she was drifting. But mostly, I remember the stillness. That breath before the truth. The moment I became someone else. Someone who stopped believing love was always enough to keep someone honest. Someone who learned that sometimes, even the people who know you best will still choose to hide. And that healing, real healing, begins not when they apologize, but when you finally decide to stop waiting for one.